Here we go. Ha! You thought we would start at 1 second. We started at 9 seconds just to throw you off, because you're going to expect the unexpected tonight with none other than master of the mystery arts, notorious Carny, occasional scoundrel, magician, entertainer, so on and so forth. The list goes on and on. There's a whole Wikipedia page on this guy. I'd like to introduce you to my friend Todd Robbins this evening. It thank you so much for coming on for our interview.
Good to see you. It's good to see you.
Yes, eyes are on you tonight, and it looks like vice versa. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Our guests are tuning in already. I can see my counter going up. Yes, we have a whopping 7 people so far.
Hey, a groundswell.
That's right.
Tsunami of love.
Usually goes up to 20 or 30 about the 10-minute mark. So we'll see how it goes. You know how magicians are. They're late.
I tell all the good stuff in the first 5 minutes and hell with all of them. I show up late.
So Todd, thank you again for coming on tonight. And you have some. I did want to talk about. We got some friendly messages. Frankie sending you a bunch of black hearts.
Ah, beautiful. Best kind.
Stephanie says, "Good evening, Todd and Vince." Yeah. So, but yeah, you got some. It's great to have you on tonight, and we have some. We made some amazing announcements the past couple of weeks. You and I, the Bizarre Hauntings this year is going to have a tribute to the weird weekends of old, which I know you were a part of. You knew Tony and Druzy, who started the Invocationals. We both know Doc Hilford, who continued the spiritual successor, the Weird Weekends. So could you tell us?
He's a torchbearer. Yes.
Yeah, torchbearer. That's right. Can you tell us how did the Invocationals get started, and where was were you there from the beginning?
No, I stumbled onto bizarre magic kind of late. I love mystery, and I kind of got away from magic in the late 70s and early 80s as I was training in theater, and got away from it because it was all kind of comedy magic or overblown illusions with smoke machines and people dancing around and just doing things that were all pointless. And what it was missing was it was not magical. They were all tricks. It wasn't magical. And I really wanted to always, from day one, want to experience something magical, something filled with mystery, and not childlike wonder, but wonderment of the dark side. And out of the blue, I don't even remember how I stumbled upon it. I think I picked up, it was probably in Ten's Magic Shop or something, one of the invocations, or one of the copies of it they happened to have for sale. And I went, what is this? And, did a little research in it. And by the way, you're during the course of this, if you're not seeing things, you see little Ewoks running around here. These are the 4 Pomeranians of the apocalypse. I have Melvin right on my lap there. Hi. So anyway, the way it worked out was that I knew Jay Marshall very well in Chicago there, and I happened to be doing some colleges and universities at that time in the late 80s, and went through Chicago and stopped by and started talking to Jay, and somehow the thing about the invocational came up, that this was not only a publication, but it was a convention that had been held every year of people who were doing this kind of stuff, and they were going to do the last one. It was coming up in a couple of weeks, And I go, boy, I'd really love to go to it. And Jay said, I think it's so lovely. Well, just a minute. Picked up the phone. He called Tony and Druzy. He said, I have a wonderful fellow from New York named Todd Robbins, and he wants to come to the Invitational. Is it sold out? And Tony said, put him on the phone. And so I got on the phone. He said, yes, it's sold, but come, we'll make room for you. And we had a lovely talk. And then I spoke to him again before going. And then I showed up at the I don't remember what the name of the hotel was. It wasn't Palmer House, but it would have been appropriate since Tony's real name was Palmer. But it was a nice little hotel. And checked in and went up to the suite that they had. It was this big suite that had a bar and tables, and it's where they were doing all the stuff. And ended up there was Tony and Druzy sitting at the bar talking to Randy Wakeman, wonderful performer. Oh, am I frozen here? No, good. Anyway, so I walked up and I sat down on the other side of Tony because he was talking to Randy Wakeman, and and I waited for them to finish their conversation. And Randy kind of turned to his drink, and Tony was kind of looking around. I said, hey, excuse me, Tony, I'm Todd Robbins. He turned to me and said, can't you see I'm having a conversation with Randy Wakeman? How rude of you to interrupt my conversation with this great magician. And I just smiled. I said, well, this is getting off to a great start. I'm being insulted by Druzy. It's worth the money already. And he went, and he hugged me and said, I'm so glad you're here. And it was wonderful. It was just, and Tony had gone through quite a darkness. His wife had died in a horrible accident. I think Tony or she, I don't remember which, fell asleep smoking a cigarette and caught the bed on fire. And she died, and he was in the hospital for quite a while. And they basically, all of his friends, like Charles Cameron and Brother Shadow, Carl Heron, and a number of other folks called him and kept his spirits up because he was really low. Not, I shouldn't even talk about this because it's so dark. But I will, because they talk about dark things. The police investigated him as asking, I mean, he came to him and he'd just come out of like a coma. And that police officers there saying, okay, why did you kill her? Was it for the insurance money? They were accusing him of murdering his wife. And it was, I mean, it was, insult to injury, literally insult to injury. And it was an awful time in his life. And all his friends said, do one last invocation and say goodbye. Because he was like, I'm out. I'm not doing anything. I'm done. Let's do one more. And it gave him something to focus on. And I think Charles Cameron was Charles Cameron or Eugene Berger. I don't remember who the guest of honor was at that one.
Doc
but it was
Shield.
great. It was me. No, it was Doc Shield. Doc wasn't there. Doc Hilford was there. I met Doc Hilford, and Jeff McBride was there. And I believe Joe Gibbon was there, who will be part of the Bizarre Hauntings this coming up in August. A wonderful performer. A lot of people don't know him, and he's just one of the real worker who actually does bizarre magic. He does everything, but he loves bizarre magic and is one of the finest practitioners of the dark magical arts. So anyway, it was lovely. It was goofy, and it was, but it was just fun. It was just great. I was like, I just feel at home, and bonded with Doc there, and then that was over. It was done. And then years later, I hear rumblings that Doc Hilford has purchased the invocation, the new invocation from Tony, and is going to continue publication of it, which he did for a while, and then he started up his own convention that was the answer or the progeny of the invocation called the Weird Weekend. It was in the Southwest, Phoenix. And I ended up going there and doing my sideshow stuff, and had a wonderful time and met a lot of great people. And went numerous times. That's where I met Banchek and Kenton Knepper. Yes. And it was great because one year Johnny Thompson was the guest of honor, and it was fun to be there and MC that show and introduce him. And he and Pam did their act and that sort of stuff. John met John Daniel, who was a pioneer illusionist, who kind of set the tone for modern illusions as we know them in many ways. He invented the thin model sawing in half while he was running Owen's Magic Supreme. And he had got his start working ghost shows. And so he was there as a guest of honor and did talk on ghost shows, and we just hit it off. And it was just what a convention should be. It's about going there and meeting people who become your best friend that you've yet to meet until you go there. And that's exactly what's going to happen in August. I'm looking forward to it because it's some old timers, and there's going to be a whole lot of new faces that I've interacted with online, but haven't met face to face. So this is going to be glorious.
I agree. I'm very excited.
And I just want to say, you don't have to come, folks. You don't have to come. But just let me say one thing to you: regret is a terrible thing to live with. I'm just saying.
I think in that case they actually do have to come, since that's been put out there like that. Yeah, you kind of do have to come there now. So go to bizarrehauntings.com. ToddRobbins.com is kind of scrolling across the bottom now, but I think it's go to bizarrehauntings.com and sign up today. Todd is. Why don't you tell us about Play Dead a little bit? How that got started,
right,
and then and how long did it run?
Sure, I had done a show off-Broadway called Carnival Knowledge, which was all about the sideshow. And I did all the sideshow acts and told stories about the history and my personal experience working in places like Coney Island. And ended up, that was fun. It ran, we did a couple of regional theaters, a healthy run off-Broadway. And then when that was done, I was like, what's next? What should I do next? And I always wanted to do a seance show. I played around with it for years since I was a teenager. I used to host parties. I discovered that I'm from Long Beach, California, the Long Beach Municipal Cemetery didn't lock their gates at night. So anyone could go in there at any time. So when the moon's full on like a Friday or Saturday night, I would put up the word, and a bunch of my friends would show up, and we would have these little get-togethers. I was in high school and later college in the Long Beach Municipal Cemetery, and would use it to really play with people's imaginations and kind of manipulate their perceptions of things. And then a number of experiences later on, and until all of a sudden we're in the aughts, the late 2000, about 2007, 2006. I started bringing thoughts to doing a show on Broadway, and originally it was called Dark Deceptions, and it was all about spiritualistic fraud, because I find that just so fascinating, all the things that people have fallen for in the last 170 years, plus years, since the Foxes cracked their toes and created rapping sounds in Hydesville, New York. What was that?
Still going strong, yes.
Which, by the way, it's coming up. It is still going strong, and it's the anniversary of the Hydesville rappings. Coming up at the end of this month. It's 31st of March, 1848. Oh, what happened? What happened? Yeah, he hates the Foxes. Sorry. Are you okay? All right. He just gets spooked every once in a while by the Foxes. So the end result is I put this show together, had this lovely monologue at the beginning where I told spiritualism and said it's all been fake, it always will be fake, until it will be no different. But if you look upon it as a believer, a seance can be a very powerful thing. So if you play the role of believer, I'll play the role of the medium. So went ahead from there doing everything straight. But because of that prologue, everyone knew that everything was going to be fake, and it became more of a ghost show. It became a little too tongue-in-cheek, even though my tone was very straight ahead with it. It still had this tinge of a burlesque of the real thing. And it also pissed off some people that wanted to come in and believe. So I decided to retool the show. The rights to doing the show was picked up by a producer named Alan Schuster, who has produced for 35 years in New York theater, including a little show called Stomp, which is still going strong after almost 30 years. So he said, you need a director, which I agreed to. And we talked to a bunch of theater people, and no one kind of got what I was trying to do. So I knew that he was going to come around eventually and say, who do you want? Because we're running out of New York theater directors. Said, who do you want? And I'd already called Teller, because I had a nice relationship with Penn and Teller through the years, and said, I'm planning on doing a Seance show. Would you like to direct it? And I sent him the script of what I've been doing, and he said, this is interesting. Yeah, yes. So when Alan said, who do you want? I said, Teller. And he said, can we get him? And does he talk? And I said, yes, we can get him. And when he talks, we listen, which we did. And Teller and I started reworking the show. We kind of ripped everything apart and did a whole, gut renovation on it. And that became a show called Play Dead. And the way we created that was we thought of all the images and ideas, the content we wanted to put on stage. There was all kind of related to spiritualism, but moved on from that. As Teller said, let's put all the isms into the pot and see, pull out what we need. So we did. And it became an evening of, as I say, spooky amusement, which is an understatement because it was designed to scare the daylight out of people. And it's all me telling stories on the stage, bare stage, about 100 white banker boxes, the file boxes. And on the ends of the boxes are the name of people all dead that had a relationship with death during their life. They were either serial killers, they were spiritualists, they were people that used death as a news, like Edgar Allan Poe, like Alfred Hitchcock, and a number of other people that had that relationship. And I would grab a box and open it and tell the story, take out whatever was in the box, which were relics of their lives. And as the stories got more and more vivid and people got a real good sense of who these people were, you got a sense that in telling the story, I was invoking them and that they came back and made their presence known. And, often in disturbing ways, always in disturbing ways. And then we ended up, at the end of the show, all of them come back. That little dance macabre, all the dead people I've been talking about. And why would you think if the dead should return, it would be pretty? It wasn't. It was gloriously terrifying. And we did it off-Broadway, ran about a year at the Players Theater in Greenwich Village, which is now the home of Monday Night Magic, a show that I'm one of the producers of. And then the show went down to Mexico. I didn't do it down there, but a big theatrical producer down there mounted it. And then the Geffen came on to the scene, Geffen Playhouse out in Los Angeles, a wonderful regional theater out there, where Derek Delgadio, his shows have started there, both of his shows that he's done, theater shows. And we got the call to do it out there, and we did. And it was a little different dynamic, which I'll talk about at Bizarre Hauntings, kind of comparing the two productions and the challenges and what's coming in the future of it. The good news is that towards the end of the off-Broadway run, we knew we were going to do it again. We didn't want to just to finish there and close and go away. We wanted to revisit this somewhere. But the physical production of the show had been sold to Mexico. So it was all going down there, going on a truck and away it goes. So we wanted to make sure we had all the details, because years ago when Penn and Teller were working, when they got together, they would work on a routine, and they do it hundreds and hundreds of times. and then they take it out of the show and put something else in its place. And maybe later on they want to revise that piece and put it back in the show, and they forget what the details. Because after a while you stop thinking, you just do it, and when you take it out, it starts to fade away. So they started recording everything they do, and measuring all the gimmicks and all the props, and taking video of the measuring, so it's not just on paper, but you can see it sort of in the real world. So that's exactly what Teller did. He brought in a film crew to shoot the show. There were 5 sections in which there was a blackout, and I mean blackout. We turned out the exit lights. We got permission to do that. It's amazing what happens when you pay the right people, what you can get away with. And so we had 5 complete blackouts where you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. So that was shot with night vision, so you could see what was going on in the dark. And then there was a footage shot backstage of all the props and all the setup and everything and all the gimmicks. And after the show closed, Teller was looking at the footage and he went, this kind of represents the show very well, the footage of the show. So he threw it to his wonderful video editor named Emery, a man so nice, they named him twice. And Emery cut it into a concert film. And the problem is no one signed off the rights to this. And the set designer, the lighting designer, and the sound designer said, "Oh, if you want to show this, if you want to do anything with it commercially, fine. Just give us a huge paycheck each." They got together and just stood in solidarity, gouged. And he could have written the check, but he was so pissed off he went no. So it has sat, wasting away a little bit. The film has only been shown a couple of times. I did it at Blackpool Convention, showed it, and that kind of gave us the idea of what we're going to be doing in August, in that we're going to show it at Bizarre Hauntings. I will introduce it, and then afterwards there's going to be a Q&A with not only my own self live, but also through this virtual Zoomy, streamy yardy thing. Teller will be calling in and answering questions, and so we can get into all the nitty gritty and talk about it. So rare opportunity. Other reason. Now you don't have Bizarre Haunting, but regret is a terrible thing to live with. So
you had to reiterate that a few more times before the end of the evening.
And there you have it.
I do want to tell everyone a little bit about how this weird tribute happened. It was interesting. About a month ago, I was hosting a show in February for Pose Magic Theater online, and a magician named William Rader sends me a message saying, "Vince, I hope you don't mind. I invited a friend tonight." And I gave him a thumbs up, which acknowledged the fact that I did hear that. Okay, so because I wasn't sure who he was inviting, and the in the show, in the Zoom room, in the chat, it appears there appears for the first time I've heard from him in over 10 years, Doc Hilford. Okay, so I sent Doc an invitation to come to my after show, which I do after every Pose Magic show for the virtual shows. And he shows up in there, and he's in a hotel room with a curtain behind him in Florida, I suppose. Perhaps on a lamb. I'm not sure. I can never be sure.
Somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere. Undisclosed location in Florida. And I said, "Doc, I haven't seen you in over 10 years. How you been?" And he just like starts off like nothing happened. I started sending screenshots because I didn't think anyone would believe me if I just told them that Doc was in the Zoom room. And I sent one to you, and I think you showed up just after he left. But we got together a couple of days later on a Thursday and started planning out the weird tribute, at Bizarre Hauntings, or Weird Hauntings, if you will. and that's how that got started. It's all because you just, I told him, I said, it was nice of you to crawl out of the abyss and join us again in the real world. And he's joining us again at Bizarre Hauntings. You're going to see Doc Hilford, Joe Given, Todd Robbins. You're going to have, Kenton Nepper is going to be there. We just recently confirmed that Rob Zabrecki will be going there to do a spook show lecture. And among a whole host of other people that are still joining us at some point. There might be some secret last second announcements about guests just hanging out with us. But it's pretty amazing. I can't believe we got this incredible group of weird, bizarre scoundrels together in one place in Baltimore.
If there's a medical emergency, such as having your upper moved, that's probably a valid reason to miss this.
Yeah. Johns Hopkins is in Baltimore.
Maybe. Well, yeah. Even your own funeral is not a good excuse for missing this. And like I say, you don't have to come, but regret is a terrible thing to live with. I'm saying.
If Todd played a cheap horror movie after Play Dead, as was the spook show tradition, which cheap horror movie would pair with it?
Yeah, that is the. Oh, I've always wanted to do the full live version of Monsters Invade the Pajama Party, which was a 3D movie that when it was in the theater, there were live elements. It was very much like a William Castle. I don't think William Castle did this. He may have, but it was very much in the spirit of William Castle with the Tingler and all the special effects that he would do in the theater, which ironically, when you go to an amusement park or now it's a high-end in movie theaters where the chairs move and there's one and vibrations and all sorts of things that make it a 4D experience. That all started with William Castle and this movie in which one gorilla is on the screen and it jumps out of the screen and runs into the audience. So that's what I would do. I would do that with all the special effects that are supposed to be part of the Monster Invades or Monster Attacks the Pajama Party. Which, as you can imagine, it's monsters and women. What made America the country it is today.
Yep, now available on Amazon. Monsters Crash the.
Unfortunately, my computer is acting up. Oh yeah, you can get it.
You're choppy a little bit, but you're still coming through audibly.
Unfortunately, I'm on my phone tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. I apologize. My computer's been acting up, and so I have to do this on my phone device here. So.
No concerns. No worries. So we got another question for you.
Good.
Todd, earlier you spoke of a certain type of magic that you considered pointless. What constitutes magic with a point? This is from Mark Levy.
Well, there's many functions that magic can have. We use the term art of magic, but it rarely is an art, in my opinion. It's all in my opinion, of course. There are many levels. The first is amusement. And on the highest end of that level is the guys that, walk around, at a corporate cocktail party before they go in for the dinner and the award ceremony or presentation or wherever the hell the main event is. You are not the focus of the evening. You're there to fill time. You're there between people shoving crab puffs in their face to fill and amuse them. That's the function. You can do more, but it's not really needed. You just need to make the sponge bunnies appear in someone's hand. And I don't mean, I'm not, when I say this, I'm really, it sounds like I'm dissing it. I'm not. I am being disrespectful of the genre. No, it's not. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. The next level up is entertainment, where you have some folks. So all of a sudden, you have to dinner entertainment at that event, and you have a little more weight to what you're doing, and maybe there's there's a little bit more content there. And then when you start putting ideas and content in, and without being didactic, without it being a lecture, then it starts to become art. Then all of a sudden it's about something, and it has a meaning beyond just fooling people. At the basis of all magic is that the fool factor. Magic is binary, it fools or it fails. And you never want to do anything where people have to kind of wink and kind of look the other way because it doesn't fool them. You want to fool them. Then the question is what comes with that? And so the next step up, again, is content, adding in about something. Is it a personal story? Is it magic as metaphor? And it basically says why you're doing what you're doing and why people should watch it and what they should take, what they should take away from the experience. And then the next step up from that, and I hesitate saying step up. It's very much. I think they're all basically on the same level. I don't really think there's a hierarchy. It is more difficult to do on the side of the spectrum, which is theater, which is magic. It becomes embedded in what's behind it. It is not the driving force. It is a tool for the larger themes and ideas that are being expressed. The example of that right now is Derek Delgado's show that's up in itself, where he's talking about bigger issues in his own life as it applies to society and to the people there that everyone can relate to, and then there's magic that is enfolded into it, but it's not about the tricks. So that kind of explains it as best as I can.
I've always thought that you have a lot of magicians who have those Thurston and Keller and Dante and Houdini posters on their walls. These tributes, these wonderful reproduction posters, lithographs of these old.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. As I'm sitting underneath a Carter the Great, which is an original, but that's anyway.
Yep. It's
yes,
exactly.
Well,
here's the difference. Here's the difference. A lot of these magicians have these in their walls, but very few of them understood the magic they did back then. Those I don't think those performances would play well today because of the level of pontification that was present in them. If you actually read or read an article that described, or read a book, or even some scripts even exist of those times, those performances in which the magician would come out and said, "This is what I'm about to do. This is the story behind this effect. I want to tell you a tale, a legend, a story." And perhaps I'm wrong about that. Maybe it would play up to this day and under the right circumstances. But these were evenings of magic. There was you went out when you went out for a magic show. You were gone for the entire evening, 3-4 hours. There was an intermission. There was cocktails and hors d'oeuvres, and magicians would entertain you. When during the intermission between the main show. This is an alien concept to a lot of magicians today. The idea of a bigger, this kind of event, that they used to perform like that. I often have said that if you were sitting at a table of bizarre magicians, and over in the other table was, your some not bizarre storytelling, narrative based or theatrical magicians, for lack of a better term, and the time traveling apparitions of the golden age of magic walked into the room. I think they would sit with us, and they may even waggle a finger or two across the room. That's my
well, it's funny in that I agree, and have a little bit of a similar take on it, in that I knew a couple of old magicians when I was growing up, and even the ones that were small time, that were not the big names that we know of, the Blackstone and Dante and Thurston and Keller and Houdini and Herman, all the others. They had such character about them, and character is, there's a vast market out there to be had that character is not required, and character is actually detrimental, because it is more about fitting in, and because in the corporate environment and private event environment, where they don't need to know who you are, that is not vital, and that is actually not welcome, because you don't want to draw too much focus. And I actually pissed off Max Maven one time. He came around to the point I was making, which I said, one of the greatest things that happened to magic, and the worst thing that happened to magic, was Di Vernon. The greatest thing about him was that he took magic to a level of sophistication, both in method and also presentation, that it hadn't really seen before. I mean, there were some people like Carl Rossini and Paul Rossini, I always get the two of them mixed up, that did nightclub entertainment, walking around from table to table. It was very sophisticated during the 1930s, white tie and tail kind of magic. That was very sophisticated, but Vernon had this quality that was sort of engaging and clean and precise. Unfortunately, the worst thing about it is he inspired a whole generation, actually several generations, of bland finger flingers that are very skilled at what they do, but they're not that interesting. That's exactly what works very well in a corporate environment. You don't want to be the alpha in the room. That's the guy that hired you. And often there are other people that think they're also. So you want to come in. There was I was talking to a magician just the other day from England who had a perfect presentation. We were talking about this very thing, about the dynamic of these events. And it's about coming in and slipping in and being submissive to, social dynamically, to the alphas in the room, but at the same time holding your own, so that they'll pay attention to you and find what you do worthwhile. And he comes in, and this guy has a great line. He came in and said, hello there, I'm so-and-so. I'm here to show you a little magic. Magic doesn't exist, of course, but I will show you how I cheat people with cards. And what it says is, you're going to see sleight of hand here. And it acknowledges, it's not asking the alpha folks to believe, play along at all. But at the same time, it says, I have skill that you wish you had. You wish you could sit down at your bridge game or your poker game down at the country club and cheat people. Because that's, chances are, what you're getting in the advantage is what you do in business, and that is how you define yourself. But this is one level where you don't have that. And I'm going to show you how I do it. And so it is this very subversive kind of thing of coming in and bowing down and saying, oh, let me show you something interesting that you wish you could do. And that's really powerful. But there, a lot of people don't do that. They just come in and there's some very high skilled folks, some large, big names in that I just look at and go, oh, really? This is so damn pointless what you're doing. And ironically, that's the point. So
yeah,
I would love one day, having gone to another. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say
I was saying that
continue. Yeah.
Would love one day to. I would love to do a big illusion show. I went to a number of the history conferences out in Los Angeles, and Jim Steinmeier and Ricky Jay and the other folks that put them together, Joan Lawton, they always had a big trick that they would it was the center of what was being done. And it was often a revival of an old illusion that they either had discovered the prop in disrepair somewhere in a barn in Nebraska, or it just hasn't been done, or it's a mystery. We don't know how it's done. And Steinmeier, like the vanishing donkey illusion, figured out how this guy did it. And it sort of is a predecessor to the vanishing elephant that Houdini did in the Hippodrome Theater here in New York. So anyway, and I find this stuff really fascinating, and I always have. And the old illusions are just really great if you just sell them right. So I love to do a show where it is putting a framework, it is deconstructing the big illusion shows and what that experience was all about, and getting people with a modern perspective to see it through the eyes of folks that were going to see the big wonder workers from the turn of the century up until like 1940, and do a couple of the, Alan Wakely reinvented the Selbit sawing, and when I saw it, it was no fooler. It was glorious, and that's the kind of example is that you can take something very old and do it just right, and you catch the essence of it. You can sell that to an audience, and they'll understand. Because it will serve its original purpose, and also they'll get the sense of how it was in the past.
Yep, so. I agree. It's you hit the nail on the head with that. I think it's amazing that there's magicians, performers, mystery artists who spend decades developing and their persona, their performance, their show, and sometimes it seems like they just miss this one little ingredient for whatever reasons. And the
major influence on magic acts are other magic acts. Yep. I mean, that's part of the problem right there, is that it's very derivative of things that have done in the past. And that's what the dogs say.
They're the worst critics. Yeah, they have their own opinion. But Todd, I think we're going to have to...
Yeah, true. No, just every once in a while when... Yeah.
I was going to say, I think we're going to have to... cut it for this evening and do this and continue another time for the part 2. There's clearly there's forces at play disrupting our.
Okay, let me just tease, since unfortunately here, but let me just hold on here.
To get back to that question.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Is that better? No, is that better?
Give it a second. Let it catch up.
Am I? Hold on. Don't go anywhere. It is that old joke. It is the this kind of stuff has become the new seances. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Are you there?
Yes.
Are you with us?
You're coming through beyond the veil now.
Yeah.
So we do have a couple of questions.
That, I do have a new show, which I.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that before we can.
Yeah. Let's just very briefly. Things are opening up in New York and at the Soho Playhouse. And if you go to sohoplayhouse.com, you'll have the information. The Soho Playhouse in New York. I'm doing a kind of ghost hunting show. Not the modern devices you see on TV, but retro paranormal. And moving glasses on a table. So go to little letters laid out like a Ouija board, predecessor of the Ouija board.
Fantastic.
And things like that to see who will show up in this building that's over history has happened in that space. So it's what I'm doing, and my Instagram or my Facebook, I see the fun stuff. So it's starting next month, the 23rd. We're doing it for 4 weeks.
Oh, froze up again. Yes.
Are you there, Vince?
I am here. Yes. Can you hear me? Todd?
Okay. Yes, I can hear you now.
All right. Is there any?
I guess.
Okay. Are the
powers that be
the pulmonary
sitting out here?
Are your dogs listening using the Wi-Fi as well? That might be slowing you down if they're on inappropriate doggy sites.
Yes, I think they are. I think they're. They do indulge in that. And or it might be the cats. I've got my cat Houdini here.
Yeah. Tome says, "Ring this bell if you can hear us."
I'm going to actually try to log on again. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds good. We'll wait. We'll be patient as the audiences of old had waited for Houdini to come out of the water torture.
See if I can. Okay, now we're having trouble here. Let me log in again. Does that sound
okay?
Good?
No problem. I'll hold on. Well, esteemed guests, please be patient while we wait for the great Todd Robbins to return to us. I will interview myself. If you have any questions for about bizarre hauntings and and me in the meantime, or Poe's Magic, I'll try to take care of those in the meantime. Of course, there's a delay of about 20 seconds, so you're hearing this 20 seconds ago, and I'll wait for your questions to pop up. Let's see. So as I was saying earlier, while we're waiting for Todd to pop back in, I'll hear a little tone when he comes in. Vamp, Vince, vamp, yes. We'll talk about bizarre hauntings a little bit. So we have some amazing lineup. I was just going to go down the list of people we have signed up. So we have me and also Vlad. Paul Prater. Paul Prater will be hosting the Black Cat Lounge, which is our late night bar scene. I've already told the hotel to make sure they stock up on liquor at the bar. They will need it. So it's going to be very important. Hey, Todd, welcome back. I was just talking about, yes, to make sure that the bar is properly stocked for the conference, and that they have scrubbed the carpets thoroughly, in preparation for our arrival in August. So the last bizarre haunting,
and then they're going to have to sage the place after we're done.
Yeah. The last bizarre hauntings had a increase in bar sales of a magnitude that had far outreached previous years of similar events. So I'm hoping we break that record by magnitude more. So anyway, we have some questions since your departure beyond the veil. Let's see. You still there? You lose you again?
And this one more so.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
No.
Did uh-oh. There we go. Okay, let's see. What questions do we bizarre booze? Yes, that's right, Wolfgang. That's what we're gonna have there. All right, so let's see. Looks like about 10 years ago, I had the pleasure of attending a workshop by Todd at Denny Haney's shop in Baltimore. I thought the workshop was going to be a discussion on Sideshow. Little did I know, we would all have the opportunity to walk on broken glass, breathe fire, and stick our hands into animal traps. That is from Jeff Horton.
Part of it. And coming back, one more time.
Okay, no problem. So other people at the Bizarre Hauntings will include David Parr. That's right, the Penn Teller of Fullest. And regular guest at Poe's Magic Online, David Parr will be there. Stefano Cavana will be flying in from Italy. Zeke Powers will be there. He'll be doing some emceeing and hosting and magic. Rolando Santos, a very good friend of mine. Christopher Taylor will be there. Kara Hamilton coming in from the UK. That's right, on a broomstick, no doubt. Christopher Thies, the mentalist and hypnotic witch doctor. Dark Artifacts, the mystery creator from England, will be there. And we also have Mary Tomich, my buddy Mary Tomich, Gemini Artifacts. Paul Nossinger, Blind Eye Magi, John Gilmore will be there. Arcane Relics. Todd Robbins, you may have heard of him. Teller will be attending virtually. Doc Hilford, old friend, coming out of the abyss to join us at the Weird Hauntings weekend. Ken Nepper, the authority in mind-bending wonder, will be there. Conjure of Amazing, Mark Strivings will also be there. And, of course, artiste of the strange and wonderful Rob Zabrecki. As well as magic and mental miracle worker Paul Draper. All these wonderful performers and entertainers will be at Bizarre Hauntings joining us, me and Todd Robbins and Vlad and everyone else for the weekend. Play Dead, to answer your question, Edward Wolfgang Poe, is yet to be determined specifically what day and time it will be on. It is included with admission, so if you sign up for the conference and attend the entire weekend, you will eventually see Play Dead that weekend. We will make an announcement when we know specifically what time of day, but it's dependent, I believe, on Teller's schedule. I do think, if I'm not mistaken, Todd, it will be during the day, not at the evening. Not in the evenings.
They probably will be back performing at the Rio. So we're going to work around this schedule. It's better if it's before the show. And admittedly, there's a 9 o'clock show, but so it would probably be best if we do it during the day.
Mm-hmm. Did he do shows on? I don't remember. Did they do shows on Sunday?
Yeah, they may be changing the schedule, but they usually have had Thursday and Friday off, and then Saturday and Sundays are their times. But when they have the time off, it's usually going else in other ways. Come on, so
yeah.
Sorry that we haven't talked about Sideshow. Apparently, there's some desire, and the Palms love Sideshow too.
I could tell they're very excited about. Maybe they want you to eat a light bulb again. They're making 7,000 light bulbs you've eaten in your career.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, too many. So. Yeah. So. Yeah. So yeah, it will. You never know. It's very possible. I will. Though you see it in Play Dead, me eating a light bulb, I very possibly will also be doing it. Doing it at the house, among other things.
So we had a question. How much work goes into preparing your shows?
Does it up again here? Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Oh, you can go back to the Denny one if you like. Switch back to that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Play Dead actually, it took several years to develop that because we not only. I would go to Las Vegas and spend a week or two out there writing with Teller, and whenever he was in New York, we would get together and write. And then we would, and then we did 3 workshops of it. And the first one was just we tried out some of the tricks we wanted to put into the thing. There was an old nightclub that was shut down at the Rio. We got for a week. And we used the stage in there and set up the whole thing and gave it a try. And those, we learned a lot. And then we revised, finished the script, and then did a rough version of the show in a small theater in Las Vegas at a hotel. The Clare Hotel, which used to be the Greek Isle. And then we... because Teller was doing the show with Penn, we did all of our previews, almost all the previews out in Las Vegas. There was a space at the Rio that we could construct a layout of the stage and the audience that we were going to be going into in New York at the Players Theater, and we inside this building, and so it was sort of a theater within a theater. And we did a couple of weeks of the run out there with invited audience, and then revised every day, worked on new material, got into shape. and then brought it back to New York and opened it. So it was a very elaborate production, and it's a very complicated show. So the end result is we can't. I get emails from theater companies or musicians saying, "Hey, why don't you bring it to Michigan for a weekend?" No, it's not that kind of a thing. You don't just put it on a truck and come. It has to be built into the theater. It has to be a full production. That's why we've only.
I missed that last. You kind of broke up on the last part.
Said it's very complicated, the show, so that's why we've only done a couple times.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what the complication is a little bit here. I might have to kind of say goodnight and pull out here. Sorry about that,
Yeah.
but we'll do
no
this. Come
the audio is
Bizarre
mostly
Hauntings.
good. Yeah, the audio is mostly good throughout the interviews. The video broke up a little bit.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so let's bid everyone adieu and look for new updates.
I'm hoping everyone at Bizarre Hauntings.
Yeah, that's right. And we'll catch up soon, Todd. Everyone, have a good night. Thank you, Todd, for coming on tonight, and we'll have you back on again in a couple of weeks for a part 2 to follow up on some of the questions we had. All right. Thanks a lot.
Beautiful.
And have a good night.
With decent internet. Great. Thank you. Take care.